welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another video. My name is Candice and this is Everything Beauty with Candice B. So it has been 4 years since Rihanna stepped into the makeup industry and changed the game with Fenty Beauty. She launched September 8th, 2017. So it's been 4 years since Fenty Beauty has really made a difference for women of color and changed the beauty industry as a whole. I remember back in the day where I could only get the Dream Matte Mousse foundation that would match my skin. Now, I'm not saying Fenty was the first to come out with all of these different shade ranges because that would be incorrect. There was MAC Cosmetics, there was Fashion Fair, there were other brands that did have shade ranges, but Fenty Beauty really came onto the scene, stressing inclusivity and showing different models of all shades and all tones, all skin types in her marketing and advertising, which was really different and a big change from what other beauty brands were doing. They did not really focus in on advertising to women of color. Fenty Beauty came out with 40 shades of foundation, which is pretty unheard of for a brand new makeup company coming onto the game. Usually these smaller brands or these newer makeup brands will come with maybe 6, 7, 8 shades. And Fenty came and said, oh no, we're not doing that. We're doing 40 shades. We're going to include as many skin tones as we can so that all women of color can be included in this new launch. Women of color proved that we have the spending power as well. And we showed up and showed out by selling out all of her darker shades within the first 1 or 2 days. It was so hard to find her first foundation when it first came out. And I think it really showed other makeup brands that they should be focusing on women of color as well. And then a couple years later, she expanded that shade range even more and expanded it to 50 shades and then came out with concealer to go with that foundation in 50 shades. And ever since then, other makeup brands have been expanding their shade ranges as well. A lot of these brands started to get called out for their non-inclusive shade ranges, and now it's a standard. When a new brand is coming out, or if you're coming out with something new, you better have that shade range. And we all have Rihanna, billionaire Fenty to thank for that, so thank you, girl. Okay, so in honor of Fenty Beauty's anniversary, I'm doing a full face of Fenty Beauty, or at least using everything that I have from Fenty Beauty on my face today. So let's get into this makeup look. And also to show my support, I am wearing my Savage X Fenty pajamas as well, so it's all Fenty up in here all day long today. Okay, so let's get into this full face of Fenty Beauty. I did my brows off camera because I am out of my Fenty brow pencil. So I'm going to put some concealer on my lids, and I'm going to be using the Fenty Pro Filt'r concealer in the shade 385. So I'm going to start by putting the concealer all over my lids, spreading it out with a beauty sponge, and then powdering it down with a little setting powder before I get into my eye look. Okay, so now we're going to get into this eye look, and I don't have any Fenty Beauty eyeshadow palettes, and that's just because I decluttered them last year because I had so many palettes I didn't know what to do with all of them. So she had to go, but I loved her palettes. They are really good, but I use her bronzers as my eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to be using, I think, a mixture of Coco Naughty, her powder bronzer, and I'll be using one of her highlighters. It's the Mean Money Hustla Baby palette, or not palette, but it's a highlighter little palette. So I'm going to use this, and I think I'm going to attempt to do a halo eye. So for the brown shade in my halo eye, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Sun Stalk'r Bronzer, and I'm using the shade Thick Mint, and I'm just going to place it on the outer corners of my eye and the inner corners of my eye. And I'm going to avoid the middle part because I'm going to put some highlighter in the center. Her bronzers are so pigmented that I can use them as eyeshadows. Her bronzers are one of my favorite bronzers to use because it's multi-purpose. I use it as eyeshadow, contour, and bronzer. Okay, so this is what we're looking like now. So I'm going to add a little concealer to the center of my eyelids, so when I put on the highlighter, it shows up. I'm just gonna pat this concealer in just a little bit, just to even it out on the center of my lid, and just using my finger. I'm gonna cover it up with the highlighter. And this just gives the highlighter something to stick to. So this is what we looking like, and I'm gonna place the highlighter on top. So I'm just using a flat eyeshadow brush, and I'm gonna dip into the shade. I think this one is Hustla Baby. So this shade here. And I'm just going to pat the highlighter on top of the concealer. This just makes the highlighter look a lot more pigmented and pop a little bit more by placing it on that wet concealer. Once we get this placed, I'm going to blend out the edges so it doesn't look so sharp. I want it to look like a gradient. So now I'm going to go back in and blend out these edges. I'm going to use the Thick Mint again. Dip into that and just place a little bit on top of that line just to help blend it out and soften up that line right there. And also get the inside, blend just a little bit on that line. Now I'm going to use a little bit lighter shade to put into my crease area. So I'm going to use Coco Naughty. And I'm going to use that to just blend all around the eye area just to get rid of these lines and to soften everything up. Okay, so this is what we're looking like now. So I'm going to add some liner to my eyes just to sharpen everything up and make everything look better. So I'm going to be using the Fenty Beauty Fly Liner Eyeliner. And I'm using the shade Cause I'm Black. And she just came out with a new shade, so I'm super excited about that. It's a brown liquid liner. So as soon as that drops, I will be picking that up as well. So to do my liner, I am going to be drawing a line going out from my outer corners. I will put a dot in the center of my eye, and then I'll draw a line connecting the outer liner to the center dot, and then I'm going to fill in the eyeliner to make my liquid liner. If you make any mistakes, don't worry about the outer corners because you can always clean it up with concealer. So now I'm going to put on some mascara, and I'm using the Fenty Beauty mascara. I'm just placing this mascara on my top lashes so that my false lashes have somewhere to sit. The mascara also helps cover up some of the shadow that may have fallen onto my lashes. So that way my lashes are all black and you don't see any shadow sitting on top. So now I'm going to put on my lashes, and then we'll get into the face. All right, so my lashes are on. So now we're going to get into the face. So I've already prepped my skin with my Fenty Skin Fat Water Toner, and I also use the SPF moisturizer from Fenty Skin. For primer, I'm going to use the Pro Filt'r True Matte Primer. I'm going to put this all over my face. This is the only one that I have left. I had all three of them, but this is the only one that I have left. I go through so much primer when I'm doing my makeup. So for foundation, Fenty Beauty really doesn't have that true skin tone match for me, so I try my best. I'm going to be using her Hydrating Longwear Foundation in the shade 410, and I'm going to mix it a little bit with her Eavesdrop Blurring Skin Tint in the shade 20. So the foundation is a little bit on the orange side for me. It does oxidize and get a little bit darker, but 420 is way too dark for me, and 400 is way too orange for me. So this is about as close as I'm gonna get when it comes to foundation. Hopefully she expands the shade range a little bit more. I know she's already at 50 shades, but she needs to include me because I'm still not there yet. When I put my foundation on, I just dot it all over my face. So now I'm gonna go in with the skin tint and just put a little bit on the back of my hand. But I like to dot it all over my face so that my sponge doesn't suck up all of the foundation. All right, so you'll see it's definitely gonna be lighter than my skin tone, but once I start putting on the concealer and the bronzer, it looks okay. All right, once I run out of this foundation, I don't know if I would purchase this again until she can fix the shade range for me. And since this isn't an exact match, I'm gonna bring it down my neck a little bit because my neck is darker than my face. So I'm just gonna bring it down some, which you should always put foundation on your neck as well so you don't have just like that line and look like you're wearing a mask. So just bring it down just to help it blend a little bit better. So now we're going to put concealer, and I'm going back into this concealer here, just putting it underneath my eyes. on my forehead, down the bridge of my nose, on my chin, and on my upper lip. I'm also going to clean up my eyeliner, just using an angled brush and using a little bit of the concealer and just cleaning up the eyeliner so that it looks nice and sharp. Okay, so now I'm going to blend everything out and then we can get into bronzer. When you're blending out your outer corners, just make sure you're being careful not to mess up that eyeliner that you just sharpened up. So since I crease really bad, I'm going to go straight into my setting powder and I'm going to set my under eyes just so I can keep from creasing. So I'm using the shade Honey. It's kind of like a skin tone shade, so I won't be too highlighted in this look since my eyes are already pretty dramatic. When I say this powder is matte, this powder is matte. Okay, so my under eyes and my forehead and everywhere that I put concealer is all set. So I want to set the rest of the face with just a little bit of powder. And I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty powder foundation in the shade 410. And I'm just going to set the rest of the face that did not have concealer with just a little bit of powder, just to make sure my face is even and all of my hyperpigmentation is somewhat camouflaged. I try not to cover it up so much because I don't mind my imperfections peeking through. So just powder the entire face down, and now we'll add a little bit dimension back with some bronzer. So for bronzer, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Sun Stalk'r Bronzer in the shade Coco Naughty. And I'm just going to place my bronzer everywhere where I would normally put contour. So right here in my cheek areas and the perimeter of my forehead. I'm going to add a little bronzer to my nose just to scope my nose out a little bit more. So just down the sides of my nose with a very light hand. You don't want to see a dark brown line going down your nose. You just want it to look nice and blended and natural. Just go back in with my powder brush just to blend out the nose just a little bit more. I don't want to see any harsh lines on my nose. Now that I'm all powdered down, I'm going to finish off my eyes and put a little eyeliner on. So I'm going to be using the Fenty Beauty, is it the Fly Pencil? Yeah, it's the Fly Pencil and it's in the shade Cause I'm Black. And I'm just going to put this pencil in my waterline. Ooh, it's a little bit dry because I haven't used it in a while. Let's see, let me warm it up. And now I'm going to go back into Thickened and smudge out my lower lash line. And just placing it on the outer corner. I'm not going to do it all the way towards the inner of my eye, so just keep it towards the outer corner and smudge the eye area. I usually don't do this because my eyes are so little, and I feel like when I put shadow on the bottom lashes or the bottom lash line area, it just makes my eyes look that much smaller. But today I'm kind of feeling it. It's looking real cute. I'm gonna throw some mascara on my bottom lash and then we can get into the lips. So with all of the powders that I put on, my face feels a little bit dry, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of moisture, and I'm gonna use her What It Do makeup refreshing spray. It's not really a setting spray, it's more of like a, I don't know, a finishing spray that melts all of your makeup together so it just looks like one even layer. So I am definitely going to use a setting spray after this, but for the sake of this video, let me go ahead and put on some of this. The spray on this is the best sprayer I've ever used. The mist is so fine and it just feels like a nice soft touch of heaven hitting your face. So I would get this again, but it's definitely not a setting spray. Now for lips, I'm gonna do a little bit of a brown and nude type of ombre look. So I'm using her, what are these called? Her Stunna Lip paints, and I'm gonna use the shade Unveiled on the outside. and I'll fill it in with Unbutton, which is the nude shade on the inside. So starting with Unveiled, these tend to separate, so you have to mix them up. So now I'm going to line the outside of my lips with Unveiled. I like using liquid lipstick as my lip liner, just because it works. Why do you have to buy lip liner if you can use liquid lipstick? So now I'm going to fill in the inner with Unbutton, with just a little bit, and now blend it together. Don't rub, just try to blot so that you keep that brown outer color intact. The Unbutton got a little bit too wide for me. I'm gonna go back in with Unveil just right here. Get that color back. There we go. Okay, so this is the final look. I'm all ready to go somewhere, girl. Not just to my office so I can go ahead and start my work day. I need to be somewhere at a brunch or something because I am feeling this look. Alright, so if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. This is the kind of content I'm bringing you every single week. Also hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.